Most people are one paycheck away from disaster, and it's not because they aren't saving money, it's because they are. If your wealth strategy is just watching a number sit still in a bank account, you aren't building a future, you're managing a slow leak. Imagine a workforce that never sleeps, never complains, and never asks for a raise, yet you've been taught to ignore them in favor of your own exhaustion. Inflation is eating your savings alive, while the wealthy are doing something completely different. They aren't saving for a rainy day, they are hiring their dollars to go out and bring back more dollars. Now, before we continue to ponder on this great book for our next life step to take, please like, subscribe, and share to someone that deserves to know this so we can all grow together. After you've done this, let's continue. In this guide, we are flipping the script. We're going to stop hoarding cash and start building an army of assets that work harder than you ever could. It is time to fire yourself as the laborer and hire yourself as the architect. The Great Awakening, transitioning from economic resource to financial architect. The global economic landscape is currently defined by a profound paradox. We are more connected and productive than any generation in human history, yet the average individual feels more tethered to their labor than ever before. We were raised on the narrative of the steady career. The idea of trading the best hours of your day for a monthly deposit is the ultimate security. But as the core philosophy of get your assets to work reveals, this isn't security, it is a sophisticated form of stagnation. The raw, universal truth is that human labor has a physical and temporal ceiling, whereas assets possess an infinite horizon. The psychological trap begins with the safety illusion. We feel secure because of the regularity of a salary, failing to see that we are merely renting out our lives to the highest bidder. If the movement of your body or the processing power of your brain stops, the income vanishes instantly. This leads to the first systematic realization. True wealth is measured by the size of your income, but the duration of your freedom. Consider the recent global surge in the cost of living. Individuals across the globe, from London to Singapore to New York, who earned what were previously considered luxury salaries, found themselves suddenly squeezed. Their income was tied to their time, while their survival costs were tied to a volatile global market they didn't own. They were saving in currencies that were losing purchasing power by the hour. This is the striking failure of the traditional saver. As the philosopher Boethius once observed while facing his own sudden fall of power, in all adversity of fortune, the most wretched kind of misfortune is to have once been happy. For the modern professional, the most wretched misfortune is to have once felt safe in a savings account while the world changed around them. When you view money as a static trophy rather than a kinetic tool, you have already lost. The first lesson is that capital is a tool for acquisition, not a destination for storage. To evolve from a laborer to an owner, you must emotionally detach from the perceived safety of a high bank balance and embrace the utility of deployed capital. This realization leads seamlessly into the next progression, the shift from active labor to asset deployment. Once you accept that cash is a seed, you must understand the soil in which it must be planted. For decades, the global middle class was sold the dream of the primary residence as their greatest asset. However, a home you live in often acts as a liability. It requires constant maintenance, taxes, and interest, taking money out of your pocket. An actual asset puts money in. This mental hurdle is where many falter, but overcoming it opens the door to the ghost employee strategy. In our modern digital era, the definition of an asset has expanded. In previous centuries, owning an asset required physical land or a factory. Today, a person in any corner of the globe can own a digital ghost employee, a software-as-a-service tool, an automated e-commerce storefront, or a fractional share in a global enterprise that serves customers 24/7 across every time zone. If you are not building or acquiring something that can generate value while you are sleeping, you are still a prisoner of the clock. However, the path to asset mastery is frequently derailed by the allure of speculative mania. Here we encounter the philosophical truth that he who is greedy is always in want. Many people fail because they mistake high-stakes gambling for asset building. They chase the latest volatile trend or get-rich-quick scheme, which is not getting assets to work, it is simply throwing seeds into a storm. The systematic lesson here is that consistency and cash flow are the twin engines of sustainable wealth. Consider the global shift in the energy sector or real estate. Those who invested in prestige assets that relied purely on the hope that someone else would pay more later, appreciation, were devastated when markets shifted. Conversely, those who focused on cash flow, assets that provide a service people need regardless of the economy, such as renewable energy grids or essential logistics, thrived. They didn't care about the ego of ownership, they cared about the rent collected by their assets.
This brings us to the most vital. Exponential growth is the only true leverage in the universe, but it requires a strategist's patience. Getting your assets to work is not a sprint, it is a siege. When you reinvest the earnings from your assets back into more assets, you trigger a chain reaction that eventually outpaces your own ability to earn. The failure of the newly successful often stems from lifestyle creep. As soon as their assets begin to work, they liquidate the gains to buy a better car or a more expensive holiday. They effectively fire their ghost employees before they have had a chance to reproduce. True freedom is found in the discipline of the shadows. It is the person whose modest lifestyle is entirely funded by a portfolio that continues to grow without their intervention. This discipline is the only shield against the tragedy of the laborer's trap. We see it far too often, people entering their twilight years not with the serenity of a harvest, but with the bitter taste of regret. They spent 40 years saving, only to realize too late that their needs grew exponentially while their physical energy declined. They now live in a state of perpetual insufficiency, trapped in a season of life where their strength can no longer bridge the gap between their bank balance and the rising cost of survival. Not living by financial principles is not a victimless crime. It is a debt you force your future self to pay. When you fail to establish undisturbed financial flow today, you are sentencing your older self to a life of if-onlys. Living in insufficiency during old age is the ultimate tax on those who prioritize the illusion of safety over the creation of systems. To escape this fate, you must pivot from being a cog in the machine to the designer of the factory. The goal is not merely to work harder, but to design channels and streams of income that function independently of your physical presence. This is the hallmark of true growth, building structures where you work around the business rather than inside it. You must stop carrying buckets and start laying pipes. To do this realistically, focus on essential utility and productive ownership. Look for ventures that provide the oxygen of modern life, sectors like energy, logistics, and communications. By investing in diversified funds that track companies with a decades-long history of increasing their payouts, you are hiring a workforce that thrives on necessity. People may stop buying luxury goods during a recession, but they will never stop paying for power, water, and a sense of transport. Beyond the physical, the modern frontier is paved with digital architecture and intellectual property. This includes software-driven systems, automated digital storefronts, or media that generates royalty income. The beauty of these assets is their near-zero marginal cost. Once the system is built, it costs almost nothing to serve the 10,000th customer. The greatest threat to your assets isn't a market dip, it is the allure of the fake promise. To ensure you aren't throwing your seeds into a storm, every venture must pass a rigorous audit of reality. Ask yourself, does this asset solve a real-world problem or just promise a higher price tomorrow? If there is no service being rendered or product being sold, you are in a bubble, not an investment. Real wealth is built in the light. If the mechanism of growth is secret or requires you to recruit others to get paid, it is not an asset, it is a trap. If your income requires your heartbeat to remain constant, you haven't built wealth, You've just built a high-stakes job. True scale is achieved only when your capital learns to replicate itself without needing your permission or your labor. As you move through this journey, you must realize that risk is not the enemy, ignorance is. Most people stay in the employee mindset because they are terrified of losing what they have. But in a world where global currencies lose significant value annually, not investing is the ultimate risk. You are opting for a guaranteed loss of value over time. The strategy is not to avoid risk, but to manage it through the acquisition of knowledge and the diversification of asset classes. The transition from a worker to an asset owner is a psychological rebirth. You must stop seeing yourself as a resource to be utilized by an organization and start seeing yourself as the chief investment officer of your own life. The failures of the past, the market crashes, the sudden industry shifts are not reasons to hide. They are the striking lessons that prove why the old way of relying solely on your own hands is dead. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Your assets are waiting to be hired. They don't require sleep, they don't demand benefits, and they don't have a limit on their productivity. They only require you to stop spending their potential and start deploying their power. The question is no longer how hard can you work, but how hard can your assets work for you? When we are able to answer these questions, then we are set to invest and allow our assets work for us. If these insights have shifted your perspective from a laborer to an architect, don't let the momentum stop here. Like this video and share it with one person you want to see win alongside you. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our inner circle of builders. We don't just read books, we build blueprints for freedom. Don't just watch the world change in 2026. Be the one who owns the change. I'll see you in the next breakdown.